traditional silent auction, which we brought back, one of those ones where you have a piece of paper and you go over and scribble and you fight with your best friends over and over. And there are 20 plus items to bid there, including a trip to Hawaii, an accommodation in Hawaii, a Ron Brandt chocolate cake, a month of Radiance yoga, and some very, very fine wine. And there will also be a live auction with condominiums in the three areas, Manhattan, Maui, and Miami. Dinners hosted by Reverend Daves and Emily, along with a bunch of other interesting items. There will be some door prizes for random participation, the most Hawaiian shirt, for example. So let's sort of see if we can compete with each other. We're all available in Hawaiian shirts or Hawaiian gear after the church service today if you need help registering, signing up, if you want any kind of information. Thank you for listening to me. Aloha.
Okay, thank you, John. Also, next Sunday, after our service, after our coffee hour, even more important, join Angela Hebert for what she's calling forest bathing. A walk around our grounds in contemplation. If you want to know more about it, there is a poster board up in the fireplace area. Take a look. Finally, please continue to look to your emails, phones, and the website for continued updates about worship and other church happenings. And know that if you are ever in need, your church staff is an email or phone call away. I invite you now to take a deep breath with me as we enter into this time of worship. come now to our chalice lighting, and we will all hold a breath and see if the chalice lighter works. There we go. As we light our chalice in these troubled times, we look out at the beauty around us, knowing that the challenges we face are overwhelming and fearing that the strength of our hands and hearts may not be equal to the task. May we find that our strength together is enough to move forward and make a difference.
Amen. I'm the Reverend Eleanor Piez, and ironically, I did not realize this until about 15 minutes ago. I am drawing today from the work of a Zen Buddhist master who is also indigenous Hawaiian. And she can really tell you about the meaning of aloha. I'm going to begin with something that this teacher does, and her name is Norma Wong, and she's on Oahu for those who are, differentiating between the islands, which I don't do very well. She begins all of her webinars with a group breath practice, and so that is what we're going to do now. She's really adamant that not only, and of course, as a Zen Buddhist teacher, breath practice is central. She's adamant that we do it when we are meeting online. So I really want to have our online participants pay attention, and if you're willing, give this a try. It's simple. But because we're spread out in so many places, doing this together helps us build our consciousness of what kind of community we have. So the first thing I'm going to invite you to do is just breathe in and breathe out 3 times together. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and out. In and out. And now I invite you to add a little movement. And if you want to, you can stand up, but it's not necessary. You can also just move your arms. So when we breathe in, we're going to lift our arms, palms up, as high as you're comfortable. And then when we breathe out, just push down. Maybe feel like we're pushing through water. And let's do that 3 times. In, out. In, out. In, out. And now one last round. And on the out breath, we will add a syllable. Or if you want to, you could also do Om. But I'm just going to do all together. In. 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 Thank you. And you can be seated if you wish. And I would love to hear how that went online from anyone who would like to tell me later. And of course, the traditional breath practice in a traditional church is singing. So now, please rise again in body or spirit as you wish, and join in singing our opening hymn, which is number 1018, with Paula leading. Thank you.
We will be doing all 4 verses here.
Please remain standing as we unite our voices to speak aloud the covenant of our community. These words are known within our heart and in our order of service. Love is the teaching of this church. The quest of truth is its daily task, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve life and community, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. This is our covenant with each and with all.
Hi, everyone. So I am going to actually have everybody just sit together as you are right now, because I'm going to move around a little bit, and I don't want to step on anybody's hands if we're sitting up here. So I have a story this morning from a picture book, but I'm telling it rather than showing it to you, because I want you to use your imaginations. And I want you, at some point when I talk about how people in the story are feeling, I want you to practice your faces that you've made when you've felt that way. So there's some anger in there and frustration, so practice that face. And some curiosity. And then there's another one that we'll get to in a little bit that maybe I'm hoping you have practiced a lot, but here we go. Okay, so this is called The Forgiveness Garden, and the words are by Lauren Thompson. The pictures in the book are by Christy Hale. There was a valley, and in the valley, through that valley, ran a stream, and it sounded just like what Victor played earlier, silvery and shimmery as it ran through the valley. Now, on one side of the valley was the village of Vayam, which is a Sanskrit word meaning us. And on the other side of the stream, there was a village called Gamche, which is a Sanskrit word meaning them. There was no peace in the valley. The two villages, Vayam and Gamche, had hated each other for a long, long time, so long they had no idea why. No idea why. And one day, though, a new argument sparked. Angry words flew across the stream, and so did stones. A Gamche boy named Karunye, which means kindness, picked up a large stone and hurled it across the water, and a Vayam girl named Sama, which means forgiveness, stood where the stone fell, and the stone hit Sama hard on the head, and she fell hard to the ground. The villagers of Vayam ran to help, and the villagers of Gamche cheered and ran away. The Vayam called out for revenge. They were angry. They were angry. And they were afraid. Would the Gamches never stop fighting us? They wondered. In the village of Gamche, too, the people were angry. And they were afraid. Would the Vayams fight us always? Time passed. Sama healed, and she walked by that stream. She walked along there. She reached a calm pool and bent to drink. But what she saw reflected in that still water made her pause, because what she saw was the scar from the stone, but she also saw her own dark, brooding scowl. Who have I become? Who have I become? She wept. Just at that moment, the villagers of Vayam came running up. Now's the time for revenge! Here, here, here! And they handed her the very stone that had struck her head before. And they hauled along with them a captive. It was Karunye. Quick, quick, throw the stone, throw it hard! The villagers of Gamche gathered on the other side, fearful, angry. Samya held that stone, and she looked at it, and she looked at all those faces out there that reflected what she had seen in the water. Anger, hate, fear. And in that moment, she said, "No. No, I will not throw this stone. We must stop fighting. We must stop hating." And she flung that stone to the ground. "You must let him go." And everyone was puzzled. "No, no, we must fight." "No, we must stop," she said. "What do we do instead? What do we do instead?" And she looked at that stone, and she looked at the stones that all the other people were holding, and she said, "We'll build a garden." She said, "We'll build a garden of forgiveness." "Oh, please." "Oh, wait. Well," said the villagers of Vayam, "if that's what Sama wants." And they laid down their stones. And the villagers of Gamche said, "Well, maybe we could do that." The villagers of Vayam said, "Well, if we build this, are we going to have to forget everything that has gone before if we forgive?" And Sama said, "We will sit in the garden, and the garden will help us decide." And the villagers of Gamche said, "Are we going to have to apologize? Is Vayam going to have to apologize to us?" And Sama said, We will sit in the garden, and the garden will help us decide. Stone by stone, the two villages built a garden wall together. And they planted flowers, and someone even planted a tree. And when it was ready, Selma said, "We've built this beautiful thing. Who will come sit with me?" And no one dared. No one dared. They were too afraid. They were still a little angry. And then one figure stepped forward. It was Karunye. "I will sit with you," he said. And Selma and Karunye sat together in the garden. I wonder what they talked about. The Garden of Forgiveness is a real thing. It existed, maybe still exists, in Beirut, Lebanon. The project began in 2003, so almost 25 years ago. I cannot find any information about it right now. Stone by stone, they built peace. May it be so.
I'm just going to note in passing that without saying anything, every week Will comes up and lights the candle for us. So thank you, Will. And so I invite you now to come forward to light a candle of joy or sorrow or remembrance. As you do so, please form two lines in the center aisle. in singing our children out to their RE classes. And we come now to our offertory. Mount Vernon Unitarian Church continues to share the plate with committed organizations that you, our members, have chosen. During the month of April, our offering is being shared with Neighborhood Health. Neighborhood Health is a nonprofit, community-based, federally qualified health center that serves more than 42,000 Northern Virginia patients annually in multiple clinics across Alexandria, Arlington, and Fairfax County. For almost 30 years, Neighborhood Health has provided patients in Northern Virginia with high-quality primary care, pediatrics, dental care, behavioral health, and pharmacy services. Their model of care is both comprehensive and integrated. It includes not only medical care, but also behavioral health, dental care, medication assistance, labs, casework, and referral to community resources, all in one setting. Their mission is to improve health and advance health equity in Alexandria, Arlington, and Fairfax by providing high-quality primary care regardless of ability to pay. They serve over 42,000 patients, providing over 155,000 healthcare visits annually. So I invite this gathered community to offer whatever you are most comfortable with, in spirit, financial generosity, for the mission of our church community. If you'd like to write a check and mail it in for the offering, please make it to MVUC, and in the memo line, indicate how you would like it to be used. You can also follow the link in your program to make a one-time or recurring payment. We are so grateful for your donations. Will the ushers please come forward at this time? Thank you again, Victor. Our reading this morning is from a book entitled When No Thing Works. It's by Norma Kualaloko Wong. And it begins, at the 22 convention of the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement, a panel of mayors of the 4 counties of Hawaii were asked about the future of tourism, a complicated and emotional issue for Native peoples. When it came to Kauai Mayor Derek Kawakami's turn, he told the story of his future self. Now retired, he's taking his grandchild, yet unborn, hint, hint, it's going to be soon. And he's taking this grandchild to his favorite beach, which the author doesn't name to avoid unhelpful geotagging. But anyway, he's taking his grandchild to the beach to share his love for riding a few waves. They pulled into the lot and easily found a parking space. Here, his audience burst into appreciative cheers and clapped at the novelty of finding a parking space easily. On the way to the shore, they passed the island guests who are picking up trash as part of their kulana, or mutual responsibility as guests. And the guides who are greeting the newly arrived guests with, hello, aloha. Here's the sweet-smelling biodegradable sunscreen you can use that won't kill off the coral reef. Oh, thank you for bringing your own. Swim on this side, please. His ending pause was met with more appreciative cheers, and needless to say, it was difficult for the other mayors to follow with their well-thought-out, but nonetheless blah, blah policy talk. The mayor's future story is only 20 or so years in the future, a near horizon indeed. And yet, a simple story allows us to see, hear, and feel all that we needed to know about which horizon we desire and which we will work toward. The blah blah policies of regenerative tourism, ecologically safe products, and community stewardship were brought to mutually thriving life. The story is all the more appealing because other horizons loom large as well. Enforcement officers ticketing locals and tourists from mounting infractions. Locals driven away from overused shorelines. Rubbish left for someone else to pick up or not. Not wanting to kill the economic engine. Mounting tensions between those who want this and those who want that. Mostly locals with insinuations of outsiders. We have tendencies to see, hear, and feel the future as a simple trend line. When we are pessimistic, the horizon is murky, dark, and every doomsday prediction comes true. When we are optimistic, the horizon is crowded with many things that we are optimistic about. If this or that is the horizon we see, hear, and feel, then this or that is the horizon that will come true. Our choices and our actions will carry out our predispositions, including the ones we dread. Instead of a predestined trend line, think of and experience the future as the living story that descendants live in which they describe how ancestors imagined it and then made it true. Creation requires just that, both the imagining and the hard work of making it true. And at this point, that hymn 1031, it's in our gray hymnal. Teal hymnal, I'm sorry, let's try this again. Hymn 1031 in our teal hymnal, filled with loving kindness.
I hope you'll notice what it says down at the bottom, the
Before I begin, please pray with me for a moment. Spirit of life and love, send your blessings on all of us gathered here, all of us gathered online, all who we love and care for, all who wanted to be here but couldn't make it at just this moment, and especially for those getting health care at Neighborhood Health. We know that those communities are under siege, and we ask for your strength and courage to keep everyone safe. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Amen. So we agree the problems of the world are real, imminent, and dangerous. And a lot of us are protesting. We protest rising authoritarianism. We protest our nation's unjust, destructive wars. We protest policies and laws that create poverty and ill health by design. We protest the persistent social norms that undergird and give cover to domestic violence, assault, incarceration, and end up too often in murder. We rally, we march, we make signs, we boycott. We should protest, and we must protest, and we will keep on protesting. But if all we do is protest, we get exhausted. Our energy is sucked into what is wrong, and we run out of energy. So we retreat, and this is important. We retreat to our gardens, to our loved ones. We have to refill our spiritual gas tank, is what I often call it when I work in the hospital. But even when we take care to do that and refill our tank, do we really want to spend all of every tank on what is wrong? Especially if we aren't getting the results, especially if we're not seeing the change. We need to remember and practice and build up what we really do believe in. And the most powerful protest is a positive creation. Some of you know that Mahatma Gandhi, now 100 years ago, practiced spinning. And I've heard that students in his ashram were expected to spin thread for an hour every day. This was a meditative practice, and it contributed to sustainability because spinning the thread then was woven into cloth. But it was also a dramatic, tangible, compelling protest against the economics of British colonial rule, and very photogenic. The desire to create in that way is what drew me to the work that I've been doing most recently, which is really part-time, but I hope will grow. And I'm working with the Virginia Unitarian Universalist State Action Network. The purpose of the network is to come together as a Unitarian Universalist voice for justice across the Commonwealth, both legislatively and wherever we can support communities who are struggling to gain the justice that they should have but don't have yet. And this effort has been through several iterations over the years that I want to mention because a minister here in the 1980s, the Reverend Dave Bumbaugh, I learned recently was active in legislative work with some other ministers around the state and was going to Richmond and advocating. More recently, just prior to the COVID pandemic, the late Reverend Gene Pupke, our senior minister in Richmond, Virginia, was a strong voice, and the legislative advocacy very much revolved around her initiative, with their congregation being right close to the Capitol building. But unexpectedly in 2022, after the disruption of the pandemic, which was, of course, a disruption of that work, Reverend Gene unexpectedly died, and the congregation couldn't pick that up and keep it going. So there were a few very stalwart board members from before from maybe 2012 or so, who kind of are now trying to put it back together and to spread it out around the state. So even if legislative work is centered in Richmond, there can be justice work regionally and statewide that are rooted in all our Virginia congregations. And that was what I was hired to try to figure out. And we're figuring it out slowly. It's still very early days, but I did want you to know that that's what I've been doing in the last couple months. And we have a provisional mission statement. We call it provisional because as folks get involved, we want it to be studied and revised if needed and ratified. But it goes, the Virginia State Action Network is a network of Unitarian Universalist congregations and individuals throughout Virginia dedicated to advancing a shared vision of justice, equity, and interdependent thriving among all people and the earth through statewide civic engagement and organizing for community justice. And instrumentally speaking, we have a vision of how we want to operate. We want this effort to be professionally operated and sustainable so it can survive the ebb and flow of volunteer leadership and facilitate that ebb and flow. Hopefully, it's more of a flow. And we want it to be rooted in congregations, multiple congregations, and we want it to be accountable to the communities and organizations rooted in the communities that have been marginalized, that need justice, and that want the assistance that we can give. So more to come, but this is an example of something that, yes, it's a resistance. It's a resistance to a lot of what's been going on in our public life in recent years, and it's creative. So I have needed to do new study to sustain me in this stepping out, if you will. And so the teachings and writings of Norma Wong are proving invaluable. So I have 3 key points I'd like to share. And the first, we already did, is breath practice. And of course, many of you know, more science keeps coming out every day about the neurological benefits and the emotional benefits and all the reasons to do that. it's so easy to skip over. So I'm saying this as much to myself as to anyone else. Don't skip over it. It's better if you actually do it. And the second point relates to what we heard from Dave earlier, and thank you for that fairly involved reading. We should be articulating a tangible and compelling and inviting vision for what we want to see in the future. The story about the beach in Hawaii is only 20 years in the future, but Norma Wong wants us to think 7 generations in the future. If a generation is 20 years, 20 times 7 is 140 years, right? So that takes us to imagine a world in the year 2166. In the story that Dave read, there was a part about giving away the non-toxic sunscreen to protect the coral reef. And that's a perfect example of a near-term action. The point of the far vision is that it paints the picture of where we want to go, and then when we have that picture, we can see what to do now that goes in that direction. It's like strategic planning, but instead of 5 years, it's a lot longer. But it still can bring us back to the now. So if we want a healthy, sustained coral reef for forever, right, for as long as the Earth exists, the sunscreen and not harming the coral reef from those chemicals can make a difference now. But there's another part of it too, because when we're giving out the sunscreen, we're also sharing the vision. And when we share the vision, that helps more people generate that social and political will to do whatever the policy work might be. And I'm not a scientist about coral reefs or anything, but I know that policy work needs to be informed with science. And so this gives an idea, I hope, of how we get from here to there, how we build something positive, share a vision of an ecologically healthy coastline. Or in the case of Virginia, I want to be swimming, to be able to swim and be safe, doing that in all the rivers. Right? Does this make sense? Is this connecting? Good, good. Because we want to be able to swim in the rivers. Maybe we want to be eating more of our food from local farms. Maybe everyone, and I shouldn't really be saying maybe, we envision that everyone will have a decent place to sleep at night, because we all need to sleep at night. So that's the second key point, to build that long-term vision, to really be thinking. And the breath practice feeds into that, because when I first encountered this idea, I was like, I don't know if I can do that. I can think back to the Civil War, and I have stories of ancestors going back 7 generations, but I just completely drew a blank about thinking forward. But I took an online workshop, and we did some breath practice. We really calmed ourselves down, and then the stories that people shared, that people could think of their 7-generation visions were vivid and encouraging and hopeful. And one person said, this is the happiest I've felt, I don't know, since the last election, maybe. So it's a lot. It works. And so those are the first 2 teachings. There's the third teaching, which brings us back to the now again. This is how we relate to one another. We want to be honest. We want to be creative. We want to be filled with loving kindness about who we are right now and who we are with. This community of beings, human and non-human, because I'm including the rivers and the trees, all of us, all these beings, shape who each one of us is as an individual person. It shapes me. The fact that I've been here with you for a few years has made me into a different person than I would be if that had not happened. And so this experience of a we that is truly communicative and truly filled with loving kindness and honesty, and what Norma Wong also calls aloha, that is the important key third point, and I have a quote for you. Faith, because that's what I missed, it grounds faith, and you know I always talk about faith. It's one of my favorite subjects. Faith is what we have when we believe in ourselves and what it is we're about. The tangibility, not the probability, but the tangibility of our far horizon story. We have faith in our fellow travelers. We have faith in our fellow warriors, fellow poets, fellow farmers, fellow cooks on the path we are building together because we are building together. Trust undergirds faith. And if there is no appetite, no desire, no magnetic pull toward that which needs to be done, then the excitement will be short-lived. Appetite makes perseverance possible. That internal resolve to weather the most confusing and chaotic days without losing our way. Thus, it can be said, and this is still Norma's teaching, our beingness both precedes and permeates our doingness. So our being, how we be, permeates our doing and what we do, how we do it. Whether it's the Virginia State Action Network or stocking a food pantry, helping with shelter, writing postcards, meeting with policymakers, all the different things that I know many of you have done and keep doing, all this doing works better with a community that also knows how to be together. We find courage through the ups and downs, through the chaos and confusion. We are better equipped to face the risks and threats and dangers that are real and imminent. We are safer and more powerful with honesty, with creativity and loving kindness. We change in good ways and become more fully who we are called to be. And I have a story. I was on a webinar where something happened to me. One of Norma's students, who is called, her name is Rufaro, and she described an experience relating to being in community together that stopped me in my tracks. When she described this kind of small thing that happened to her, I went out emotionally into the stratosphere, and I was like a boomerang, and then I came back, and I was different. I was a little bit different when I came back. So Rufaro told about how she was called back into community at a moment when she didn't even realize she had fallen out of it. Her country of origin and some of her family is in Zimbabwe. And she was back there visiting. And she had tasks to accomplish, a to-do list, as we often do when we go back and visit our family. And she had a limited amount of time. She was feeling pressure, and somehow her transportation to where she needed to go didn't come together right. And she was taking this bus, but it wasn't a bus that, like we have with a timetable. It was the kind of bus where everybody gets on, you get on, and you wait for everybody else to get on, and then when there's enough people on the bus, that's when the bus goes. So she didn't really know how long it would take, and she was stressed out, and I could totally relate to that. I hate the idea that I might keep somebody waiting. And then someone got on and sat down next to her, and she was so stuck in her own head and her own anxiety that she didn't even notice until the person said to her the traditional greeting, which was, "Did you sleep well last night?" And she answered automatically in the traditional way, and it brought her back to the present moment. She suddenly realized where she was and who she was with. And the answer was, "I slept well if you did." So that's what stopped me cold. A stranger on a bus? Does my sleeping well depend on someone else's sleeping well? Does it depend on your sleeping well? Does it depend on a stranger on the bus sleeping well? Well, I could be over-literalizing. This came to me totally out of any cultural context, and I have not been to that country, so I don't actually know. But even if it was just, "I'm fine if you are," that's different to me. Good sleep equates to well-being. When we can say we're fine together, it's like, "I'm okay if you're okay." Let's see how we can be okay together. And I want that vision for 7 generations, maybe only for 20 years, to include that everyone can sleep well at night, and not just having a safe place to be, but also having enough time to sleep well, and enough ability to relax and not be anxious to sleep well. And none of us can take that for granted, but all of us can help get there. All of us can do the small things, the everyday things in community, and thinking bigger into larger communities and policy making and all of that. It's a complete through line. So the first book that David read from is called When No Thing Works. And the second book of Norma's is called Who We Are Becoming Matters. And that's the message. Who we are becoming matters. And she talks about the courage and the aloha that we need in a time of collapse. Because we are in a time of collapse, but this is also a time when we must build and we must turn the world around. And that is the hymn that you are now invited to rise in body and spirit as you feel moved? And can we get some drumming? Dancing.
And please remain standing and join me in the words we use each week as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Even in the midst of chaos, threats, and danger, let us remember to breathe. Keep faith with our descendants, the people who will come after us in 7 generations. And right now, let us become who we are called to be. Let us go in peace and be makers of peace. Thank you.